Why career anxiety causes the brain to get hijacked, and what can you exactly do to stop this? This is precisely what today's insight video is all about. So stay tuned till the end if you want to understand and unpack this philosophy fully. Here's what we're going to cover. What really career related anxiety means, where it stems from, why does it survive, and what can you really do about this to get nearly long lasting and permanent relief. Here's a small suggestion for you. If you think this topic is something that you wanted to address for a while, save this video so that you can come back to it later. Now I'm going to be talking to you exactly like I would when I share insights and deep details in the middle of a session that I conduct. So it's going to be completely free flowing. There's no script, and I'm going to be helping you to create at least a small breakthrough today. So let's start. Let's begin by thinking about what this scenario really means. Professionals, ambitious people, high performers, leaders, they spend most of their life at their workplace. They dedicate massive amounts of time and effort to their work. Now during this period, what happens? You create a lot of success, you climb the ladder, and without realizing it, you begin to deal with a severe amount of uncertainty. Now the truth is, uncertainty is not something new, except when the stakes become high, especially as you start rising up the corporate ladder, or when you start doing something that really means a lot to you. The aspect of not knowing how things are going to be really start playing games with the mind. So here's what starts happening. You start thinking about what might happen in my next review meeting. Will I really get a promotion? The landscape is changing so fast. Am I upskilling fast enough to stay on track and not get sidelined or left behind someone younger who's coming up in the same company? If you are somebody who has faced all of this or different kinds of uncertainties, I really hear you and I really understand this feeling. I may not be doing a traditional corporate job, however, even this line of work, helping people become stress resilient, helping them optimize their performance, is a career in itself, and I have to deal with a lot of uncertainty myself. So let me help you understand this more in detail now. By the way, I'm going to share an insight with you. The Gallup state of the Global Workplace 2026 says that leaders experience significantly higher stress levels despite objectively successful careers. And I'm going to leave you with that fact to digest it. Let's understand one important thing now. Why does a leader's brain start protecting worry in times of uncertainty? Now the simple answer to this question is, worry is something that people begin to protect in general. And in terms of career and career uncertainty, this begins to become even more amplified. The simple reason for this? Something I mentioned a little while ago. People's careers, their work, their workplaces become a significant part, or probably one of the most important parts of their life. Mostly unconsciously, because you end up spending most or a significant amount of your time in your life between the ages of 20 to 60, 65 in that workplace or in that work environment. So when uncertainty starts to creep up over there, when you don't know whether you're going to be able to protect your job in a highly changing environment, when you don't know whether your skills are going to hold up for the next 15 years, when you are transitioning from one place to another, all of these things add on to that uncertainty. So here is why it gets even more inflamed. Now quickly let me help you understand why really does the brain protect worry. In essence, our brain and mind is wired to essentially help us to survive. Now, the brain and the mind do not understand the concept of uncertainty as such. They just understand that I need this in order to get a goal, to survive, to feed myself, etc. Now, when a clear path to that is not seen by the brain or the mind, it simply begins to feel threatened and it begins to engage in worst case scenarios in that case. The truth, your brain and mind is not malfunctioning, it is actually just doing its job. This is where you come into the picture. Once you recognize this phenomenon, it begins to become your job to regulate it and to use it to your advantage. Let's move on. Here's something you might relate to. Have you ever said this? If I keep worrying, listen to this closely. If I keep worrying, I'm going to be emotionally ready for something that I have not planned for. Think about this. This is the crux of the matter. Now let me help you understand how do you actually deal with this. Now in my work with the Bulletproofing Happiness framework with clients across the globe, here's something that I do that helps them to completely dismantle this background anxiety related to uncertainty, especially in their careers. The method is called using the trending worry list. Let me break it down for you. What does this really mean? You see, you're always going to have a lot of things to worry about. There's not going to be a small list for you to worry about at any given time in your life. There'll always be several things. And when you take it down to sections and departments of your life, there will be many within each section. So, what do you do about this? Instead of just constantly engaging in worry, the first step is to actually pinpoint your worrying list, and more significantly, your trending worry list at that point in your life. How do you do this? When you find yourself feeling extremely anxious and worried about something, and when you're uncertain about what might happen in the future, take that as a cue and do one of the two things. Either mentally and silently just ask yourself, I want to pinpoint my specific worry list, and start doing that. I'm worried about A. I am worried about B. For example, I'm worried about how I'm going to keep up in this changing environment in my career. That is one way. Second, you take a pen and paper and you literally write down your trending worry list. Now what happens in this case? Why does this really help? Previously, when one is just worrying and being anxious about things that they are not sure about, those thoughts just begin to grow and grow and grow. One feeds on to another. Now when you begin to pinpoint your worrying list, even before you've done anything about that, you have begun to understand that your list of worries and challenges is not as massive as you might have thought. And you can actually put them down into a list and compartmentalize them. This is you using your brain and mind instead of letting the brain and mind just run wild. Remember, we spoke about this earlier. your brain and mind are actually just doing its job. They are trying to protect you because they cannot exactly see the specific outcome that they want for you. Make sense? If it makes sense, I want you to put something related to this in the comments, and I will definitely respond to you personally. Let's move on. Let me give you one data point over here. The TELUS Health Mental Health Index of 2026 says that 41% of professionals report that work-related anxiety disrupts their sleep. That's nearly half of working professionals. So obviously, anxiety around uncertainty and not knowing how things are going to pan is definitely going to be one of the work-related anxieties. So this is not a small point. When long-standing anxiety like this exists, it begins to become a default setting and the nervous system starts functioning that way. This is why executing and understanding this trending worry list repeatedly is a great starting point to bring you back to a source of baseline peace. Let's move on. I'm going to share something very interesting about this whole concept with you, and that's called the action worry paradox. One more significant detail that I use repeatedly in the bulletproofing happiness framework is helping people understand that even though your brain and mind might be doing something to protect you, what you really need, what the brain really needs for you, or rather what it really wants for you, is some sort of mitigation, some action to mitigate that risk and potentially to get an outcome that it wants. Now what you really need for that, and listen closely to this, is not more worry. You need more action. And this is what most leaders and professionals confuse. They believe that more worry is equal to more action. And actually, specifically the inverse is true. The more time you spend with worry, the more time you might end up paralyzing yourself in terms of taking action, because the situation will just become bigger and bigger and bigger. In fact, here's a tip for you. If you find yourself feeling extremely worried about something, ask yourself to take some small action within the next 5 minutes. That action will already begin to put you in the right mode of doing something versus just sitting and brooding and letting your mind run its own game. How does that sound? Let me share one more interesting thing with you. The same TELUS Mental Health Index of 2026, it says that severe mental health challenges contribute to 75 to 82 lost working days of productivity for professionals like you. And by the way, even if you haven't started your career, productivity is very important for any ambitious person. Think about this and make a resolution that you're not going to let old patterns run anymore. After you've seen this, it becomes your duty to now begin to try to execute this. As a summary, let me share this with you, that anxieties and uncertainties in your career are not going to fade away. What can change is the way that you deal with this. And in order to help you, an important first step is to begin to diagnose where things are going wrong with you. Now, in order to help you with that, after 23 years of working in this field, me and my team have created a professional grade stress resilience diagnostic, which helps you to exactly understand where is the hidden level of impact on your stress and what is it specifically costing you right now. That is the greatest place to begin if you want to improve your stress resilience and optimize your performance. The link for that professional grade audit, which by the way is completely complimentary, is there in the description below. Try it and let us know, and then we will take it from there. Until next time, keep trying, keep practicing, and I'll see you soon.